In the midst of this pandemic, in the midst of these uncertainties, we need encouragements from God. We need the assurance of His presence. We need the assurance that He is in full control. Hence, our series of messages the past 2 months talks about faithing during lockdown. Blessings are on the way during difficult situations. Responding to the promises of God during difficult situations. And trusting God during difficult situations. And last week's message was about King Jehoshaphat, our model in facing difficult situations. Still in difficult situation. Today we will talk about strengthening relationships in the family during difficult situation. Our message today focuses on the strengthening of the relationship between husband and wife. And because of the rising concern on this topic, I feel the need to address this issue to help couples navigate in the intricacies ushered in by COVID-19 and eventually strengthen their relationship. However, the principles we will learn here today can also apply in the other important relationships that we have. I would like to greet you today with the greetings and encouragements of St. Paul to the church in Thessalonica. To the church in God the Father and the Lord Jesus Christ, may you have the grace and peace, the inner calm and spiritual well-being from God. Church, this encouragement is also for us during this time of COVID-19. By the way, we will have Holy Communion at the end of our service today. So please prepare your communion elements, prepare bread, and prepare grape juice. During the first 3 weeks of lockdown in Manila, Philippines, a joke was widely circulated on social media. Now it says, the police reported after 3 weeks of lockdown, crimes recorded, 50 cases only. Domestic fights, or meaning fights between husband and wife, recorded 10,050 cases. What a sharp increase in domestic fights. Although it was only a joke, but there was some truth in it. On the macro level, the pandemic created a worldwide impact. On the micro level, it created a significant impact on the smallest unit of society, our own families. You know, as couples spend more time in the same space during the COVID-19 quarantine, it is not surprising that tensions sometimes arise. Anxiety about work, anxiety about disrupted routines, anxiety about increasing childcare issues, anxiety about lack of social connections, anxiety about passing or pressing financial insufficiency during the extended quarantine, and added by the struggles to be productive at home may lead couples to vent their anger and frustrations on each other. On top of that, since we are inside the house together with the whole day, the whole week, the whole month, there are new things that we notice. And mostly, you know what? Mostly, you notice the wrong and the annoying things. Have you recently noticed how loud your partner chews his or her food? Have you noticed that her placement of items in the refrigerator is illogical? Have you noticed that his consumption of toilet paper, his consumption of soap, his consumption of toothpaste, his consumption of junk food is remarkably high? Have you noticed that parenting is not one of his or her core strengths? Have you noticed that home-based learning or online classes are not easy at all? Small things annoy you without you noticing it. And they become big things already. It grows into an argument. It grows into a fight. And if you are experiencing these things that I have mentioned, then the pandemic syndrome is now invading your marriage. In fact, after COVID-19 cases began to subside in China, and people were able to go out again, there was a reported sharp increase in divorce cases. Domestic violence appears to be on the rise. Families began to disintegrate during the crisis. The stresses of having children away from school, but doing home-based learning or online classes, and the financial difficulty caused by the sudden loss of some of their income can push couples over the brink. And added to all that is the fear of members of the family getting sick with COVID-19. So, how does husband and wife relationship survive strongly in these unprecedented circumstances? Let us take a look at how the Bible provides wisdom in building a strong relationship between husband and wife, especially in difficult situations like this. What advice we can find from the Bible? What the Bible has to say in strengthening our relationships in the family during trying times. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, from verse 4 to 8 in the Amplified Bible. This is the love chapter in the Bible. It says, "Love endures with patience and serenity. Love is kind and thoughtful, and is not jealous or envious. Love does not brag, and is not proud or arrogant. It is not rude, it is not self-seeking. It is not provoked, nor overly sensitive and easily angered. It does not take into account a wrong endured. It does not rejoice at injustice, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things regardless of what comes, believes all things, looking for the best in each one, and hopes all things, remaining steadfast during difficult times, endures all things without weakening." Love never fails, which means it never fades, it will never end. In most of the weddings that I do, I use this text. 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Again, as I say, this is the love chapter in the Bible. It may sound romantic, but it is not about romance. It is about responsibilities. Responsibilities of husband and wife to each other. Now, let's do this exercise. I want you to face your wife or your husband and read 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4 to 8 aloud, and replace the word love with your own name. You can do it this way. Follow after me. I replace the word love with my own name, Tommy. It goes like this. Tommy endures with patience and serenity. Tommy is kind and thoughtful and is not jealous or envious. Tommy does not brag and is not proud or arrogant. Tommy is not rude. Tommy is not self-seeking. Tommy is not provoked nor overly sensitive and easily angered. Tommy does not take into account a wrong endured. Tommy does not rejoice at injustice, but rejoices with the truth. Tommy bears all things regardless of what comes, believes all things, looking for the best in each one, hopes all things, remaining steadfast during difficult times, endures all things without weakening. Now, I suggest that you print this on a beautiful piece of paper, laminate it, then hang it inside your bedroom to remind you always of your responsibilities to each other. Here are some practical points that we can learn from here. Build the foundations of a strong marriage on the Lord Jesus Christ. You can build the foundations of a strong marriage by having Jesus Christ as the center and the foundation of your relationship. Jesus is love, and He must be the strong foundation of your marriage. Both the husband and wife must have the same foundation of their marriage. That is Jesus Christ. Your love affair is a love triangle. God is on the top of corner of the triangle. The husband is on the right corner of the triangle. The wife is on the left corner of the triangle. Your love for each other is a triangular love affair involving God at the top, husband and the wife. And when the husband and the wife bring themselves together closer to God, eventually they bring themselves closer to each other. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 13, it says, "And now there remain faith, the abiding trust in God and His promises, hope, the confident expectation of eternal salvation, and love, the unselfish love for others and for each other. But the greatest of these is love." Build the foundations of a strong marriage by praying for each other and by praying for the whole family. We have learned this secret from King Jehoshaphat. Realize your big need, then come before God in prayer. You can stand strong before any difficulty when you kneel seriously before the Lord in prayer. Praying for each other helps us connect with each other in a meaningful way. 5 to 10 minutes a day of praying together is generally better than 1 hour every month. And you may ask each other when you pray, "What can I pray for you today, honey?" In your prayers, draw on God's promises from the Bible and start with thankfulness. You know, the closer you are in your relationship with God, the closer you will be to each other as husband and wife. And if one has upset the other, say sorry before praying. Be deliberate and plan it into your schedule so that there will be no surprises. You need to understand that you have your separate schedules already, even if you are at home. Third, build the foundation of a strong marriage by respecting each other's time and each other's space. You know, your home is now at the same time your office. You do a lot of Zoom meetings from home. So respect each other's time and each other's space. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 verse 5, it says, love is not rude, love is not self-seeking. So respect each other's time and space. However, you may find it best to agree on doing some things together. In the evenings, you may want to go for a car ride, or just sit in the front porch in your house and talk, or watch a television series together, or probably take a walk. But intentionally, you've got to make some time for each other. The fourth, build the foundation of strong marriage by expressing appreciation for each other. Proverbs 18 verse 22, it says, if you find a wife, you have found something that is good. She shows that the Lord is happy with you, and it's true for having a husband also. You are a gift from God to each other. So Romans chapter 15 verse 7 advises us, accept one another just as Christ accepted you. Again, you are a gift for each other. Thank your wife often. Thank your husband often. Practice gratitude. Practice the lifestyle of appreciation. Be intentional in thanking your spouse for doing something that is good. Thank your wife for making your coffee. Even if it's the 500th time already, to get your eyes off the virus and its care, I have a suggestion for you. Mention at least 3 things you appreciate about your wife or your husband before you go to sleep tonight. Focus on the good things, not on the negative things in each other. Fifth, build the foundation of a strong marriage by listening to your spouse when he or she feels bad about the current crisis and its impact. Listening is also an important ministry. You may have different opinions about the current crisis and on how to face it. However, that doesn't mean that your spouse is wrong. Proverbs chapter 18 verse 13. Let people finish speaking before you try to answer them. That way, you will not embarrass yourself and look foolish. This means you need to listen to your spouse first before talking. When you disagree with your partner's approach to the pandemic, do your best to figure out what it is he or she is really thinking about instead of dismissing it. Your spouse is playing a lot of scenarios in his or her head, and he or she is just trying to figure out what will be the appropriate response once it happens. Someone says, you are not in the same boat, but you are in the same storm. Be sympathetic with each other. Help each other cope with the difficult situation. Your spouse is going through the virus information in a different way. You must have some empathy, which means do your best to guess and name what emotion you hear your partner is expressing. Don't dismiss the feelings of your spouse immediately. Now, these feelings are valid, so you have to exercise and enhance your listening skills. Another thing that we can learn, another important practical point that we can learn from here is that you need to resolve conflict quickly and effectively. Remember, your spouse is not your enemy here. Your spouse is also a victim. So both of you must hold hands in facing the invisible enemy together. You must pray together, win the battle in the heavenly realm. In Ephesians chapter 6 verse 12, it says, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, contending only with physical opponents, meaning your spouse is not your enemy, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly supernatural places. So, change the battlefield from the flesh to the battlefield in the heavenly places. Your strength is in the heavenly places. If you want to see a good change in your relationship in the natural realm, then you've got to battle it and win it in the spiritual realm. Bring everything in prayer. You know the song, What a Friend We Have in Jesus? It tells us, oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear. All because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. Have we trials and temptations? Is there trouble anywhere? We should never be discouraged. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Amen. In resolving conflict quickly and effectively, we must, number one, identify and accept differences on how you view the current crisis. You must recognize that you have differences of temperament. You have differences in personality, upbringing, and values. Now, these affect the way you process thoughts and decisions also. So, you can expect that your reaction to the crisis may be different from the reaction of your spouse. Don't try to change each other. Sometimes you need to agree to disagree. You have to realize that your marriage is a partnership in which you combine your strengths and support each other's weaknesses. In resolving conflict quickly and effectively, don't magnify the mistake of your spouse. Now is not the time to be pointing out mistakes. It's so easy to point fingers and say, I told you already, don't hang your clothes that way in the closet. Cara jemur baju nya nggak benar. Why can't you keep your toothbrush in the right place? Why are you throwing your litters everywhere? Can't you see the trash bin? Again, now is not the time to point out mistakes. It will just upset your spouse. We have a bigger enemy out there. But instead, now is the time for appreciation. It's really important for people to look for what partners are doing right and to express appreciation for it. Again, in resolving conflict quickly and effectively, you must aim to grow together, not aim to defeat each other. Sometimes we want to change our spouse to be the kind of person we want. Please realize that the person that we can change is us. We can change ourselves, we cannot change our spouse. We must try to understand to be understood. We can only change and grow together when we know what matters to each other. You must put the welfare of your spouse above your own welfare. Requesting change is helpful, but demanding change in the character of your spouse is harmful. In resolving conflict quickly and effectively, do not assume that the other person knows what you are thinking. None of us have lived through this pandemic before, so we don't have past experiences to guide us. Talk to each other about your feelings and what worries you. Do not assume that the other person knows that something is bothering you. They cannot read your mind, so you have to verbalize it. Another thing in resolving conflict quickly and effectively, be quick to forgive. Colossians chapter 3 verse 13 says, bearing graciously with one another and willingly forgiving each other. If one has a cause for complaint against another, just as the Lord has forgiven you, so should you forgive. Here comes the power of forgiveness. To say sorry and forgive is so important because we will all hurt our spouse. And dealing with hurt is vital to your intimacy in marriage, especially during the time of crisis. Unresolved hurts may create a big wedge in the relationship. Relationships grow through trust and openness, while hurt undermines trust and undermines openness. In resolving conflict quickly and effectively, don't retaliate in anger. Sometimes when we are hurt, we are like rhinos. We attack each other when we are provoked. Pastor Rick Warren, he said, before marriage, couples attract each other. But after marriage, couples attack each other. Proverbs chapter 15 verse 1 has a beautiful advice on this. A gentle answer makes anger disappear, but a rough answer makes it grow. Now, this proverb describes a situation where your spouse is already angry, but you respond with a gentle answer. You know what will happen? The anger of your spouse will disappear. However, when you do the contrary, your spouse is already angry, but your response was rough and also in anger, then the anger of your spouse will grow. This is natural law. So make it a habit to give a gentle answer to your spouse every time and any time. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26 and 27. In your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold. Finally, learn to laugh with your spouse. Don't laugh at your spouse. Learn to keep your sense of humor. Injecting humor can keep things light. Proverbs chapter 17 verse 22 says, a merry heart works like a medicine. Find silly things to laugh about. Life is not going to be perfect all the time. The value of a relationship is that you stick by each other for better or for worse. And this pandemic is not a permanent situation. Try to stay focused on the good things that are happening. Again, maintain a good sense of humor. Church, those are the practical advices we need to do during this time of pandemic to keep husband and wife relationship on high spirits. Remember, the enemy is not your spouse. Your spouse is your partner in going through this pandemic. Let us review the points we have learned today. Number 1, build the foundation of a strong relationship, primarily having Jesus Christ as the center of your marriage. Number 2, resolve conflict quickly and effectively. And number 3, maintain a good sense of humor. Have a regular, hearty, and good laugh with your spouse. In closing, I got this article from the internet, and it is entitled, The School Called Marriage. And it is appropriate that we remember why husband and wife commit themselves to each other. Marriage is the only school where you get the certificate before you start the school. It's also a school where you will never graduate. It is a school without a break or free period. It is a school where no one is allowed to drop out. It is a school where you will have to attend every day of your life. It is a school where there is no sick leave, there is no holidays. It is a school founded by God on the foundation of love, where the walls are made out of trust, where the door made out of acceptance, where the windows made out of understanding, where the furniture made out of blessings, where the roof made out of faith. Be reminded that you are just the students. You are not the principal. God is the only principal. And even in times of storms, do not be unwise and start running outside. Do not bail out. Keep in mind that this school is the safest place for you to be in. Never go to sleep before completing your assignments for the day. Never forget the C word, communicate. Communicate with your classmates, that is your spouse. Communicate with the principal, that is God. If you find out something in your classmate, your spouse, that you do not appreciate, remember that your classmate is also just a student. Just like you, you are not a graduate yet. God is not finished with your spouse yet. So take it as a challenge and work on it together. Do not forget to study the Holy Book. That is the main textbook of the school marriage. Start each day with a sacred assembly, prayer, and end it the same way, pray in the evening. Sometimes you will feel like not attending classes, yet you have to. When tempted to quit, find courage and continue. Some tests and exams may be tough, but remember the principal knows how much you can bear, and yet it's a school better than any other school. It's one of the best schools on earth where love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, self-control accompany each lesson of the day. Different subjects are offered in this school, yet love is the major subject that you can take. After all the years of theorizing about it, now you have a chance to practice it. To be loved is a good thing, but to love is the greatest privilege of them all. Marriage is a place of love, So love your spouse dearly. I pray that you learn something in strengthening your relationship with your spouse during these difficult situations. I pray that your love will be strengthened even in the difficult situation that you are facing right now.